right, we are talking some full-size ladies here today, everybody. Glock 17 Gen 5 and the CZ P10F. You can see both set up extremely similarly, except for I don't have a mag well for the P10F because I just don't know of one out there. So if you guys do, let me know in the comments. But Glock 17, probably the most widely carried gun in modern law enforcement today, especially in the United States. And the Glock 19 maybe right after that. But the CZ P10F is definitely making a pretty big impact in the market. And I gotta tell you, the more and more I shoot the P10F, the more and more I like it. Although I do have far more rounds through the Glock 17, I can tell you that the P10 just feels a little bit better in my hand. Now, I guess we can't call them both full-size ladies because the P10F is kind of a plus-size lady. It is a little bit more portly, it is a little bit longer, it's a little bit taller, so it's a sizable difference. That weight I didn't find to be a bad thing. I actually kind of found it to be a good thing. And since I kept getting a ton of viewers asking for a comparison and more of the CZ stuff, I put this thing together for you because if you guys are wanting to see the comparison and make a decision out there, anything I can do to help you, I'm more than happy to do. So you viewers asked for it, and now you're gonna get it. I've also had a lot of viewers asking recently about merch or anything like that, merchandise, or how they could support the channel. I don't have merchandise because my channel is just not that big yet. But if you do want to support me, there are links in the description down below. There are links at my website, tacticalconsiderations.com, if you want all the 2A stuff. And then I do have a TriStar page, which is linked down below. So if you want to support the channel in any way, any of those things can help. And it's obviously much appreciated from you viewers, as I'm obviously fully self-funded here. So let's go ahead and start digging into these two range hammers here and get into a couple things that we're actually going to be talking about on these, which is going to be the quality, the reliability, the ergonomics, which one would I choose and why, which one feels a little bit better in the hand or shooting with that recoil impulse. And we'll go over a lot of those things. Of course, we're going to go over all of the specs of both of these when we get up close to them. And I'll show you those size differences and the magazine differences and all those things. So you can kind of make a more informed decision if you are on the fence about one of these two for your personal collection, or maybe you want to carry one for work or, EDC or something like that. Either way, I'm going to do my best to help you out so you can make an informed decision between the CZ P10F and the Glock 17 Gen 5. Now, I do really think that both of these are absolutely great options depending on what you are using them for, and we'll get into more of that later. Now, a lot of things when it comes down to firearms or parts or anything like that is budget. Now, budgetarily, these are both priced fairly similarly, although I have found that you can get the CZ P10F slightly cheaper unless you got one of those blue label deals or something like that, or an inside hookup for the Glock. And one of the biggest things for me is talking about that personal connection with a firearm. I'm not talking about a candlelight dinner with your Glock or your CZ across the other end of the table. What I'm talking about is how does it feel in your hand? How did that gun immediately feel on the range when you shot it? And was it comfortable for you to hold? That is kind of an immediate connection that I've had with guns over past where something felt really good in the hand. Now that can be really good, but sometimes it can kind of lead you in a wrong direction. My case in point is the VP9. I absolutely love the way that gun feels in the hand, not so much when I'm shooting it out on the range. So you definitely don't want to go just by how that thing feels in your hand. You definitely want to get some practice, either way you go. Let's talk about the overall appearance here. Now up first, the Glock 17, now the Gen 5. As you guys can see here, it is your typical blocky Glock Gen 5 design. Not a huge difference between the Gen 2, 3, 4, and 5 as it goes as looks. A little bit of different stuff on the stippling. You had that little half moon cutout on the first ones. My understanding is that's all going to go away. But you have that same blocky kind of look to it that Glock has really stuck with over the years, and they're probably never going to go away from because that's just how they make them. And some people love that, some people really hate that, especially when it comes to the trigger guard and everything down in here. But the overall quality and reliability of a Glock is very unmatched. So there's a lot of guns out there, guys, but the Glock 17, the Glock 19, the Glock platform in general is probably one of the more tested product lines out there. And it's obviously a very good one because they keep going, they keep innovating, they keep making more stuff. It may not be the innovations we all want, but they are doing changes here and there. Now, when it comes to the frame and the slide and anything like that, I really have no complaints. Now, the DLC coating on the Gen 5 stuff seems to wear a tiny bit faster than the old nitride stuff. But from my understanding, talking to Glock directly is even if the black starts to go away, the impregnation of that material in the metal is not going to allow it to rust or anything like that. So it's still going to be protected because of the way that protective coating actually bonds with the metal. Now let's talk about that slightly portly CZ P10F and kind of the overall look and appearance of this. Like I said, we're going to get up close to both of these and go over the basic specs and stuff. So the CZ P10F, guys, you can just take a good up close look at this right there. Quite a bit different, a little thinner on the slide profile, and I feel on the frame profile as well. The coating, very similar. It's an all black gun. I've had no coating issues with the CZ, both my P10F or my P10C. Now, overall quality of the build, I find it to be there. I don't have any issues with it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels in the hand. We do have a little bit of a better, cleaner look to it. We have kind of a narrowed down chamfered cuts on the slide. Obviously, we've got those front serrations on there, which can be helpful if you're big into press checking or competitions or anything like that. And then we do have a little bit of a different grip profile angle. You can get higher up in the pistol grip right there, which can help with that recoil impulse control. Definitely a little bit longer all directions here. A little taller, a little longer in the slide, all that stuff going on there. But overall, actually really nice to hold, really nice in the hand, and very, very comfortable. So being that these things are very similar, I want to get up close to them. We're going to take them down to an extent and just kind of show you the differences in the trigger mechanism between the P10F and the Glock. I do have an aftermarket trigger in the CZ right now. Doesn't change what it is, what it does. It just makes it a little cleaner. Running the factory trigger in the Glock 17, but everything's going to be operationally the same. So I want to show you these specs on these, go over them up close. We will look at the trigger mechanisms, how they work in there. We'll look at the size differences in them, both length, width, and weight. And then we'll check out some of the differences in the magazines, because we're using all metal mags in the P10 series, and we're using the polymer with internal steel in the Glocks, as Glock has produced pretty much as far as they've been out. As far as I know, they've pretty much always had those metal, polymer over metal magazines. So we'll get into these, check out the specs, and then we're going to go over some more things with them as far as shootability, reliability, and if I could only have one of them, what would I do and what would I use it for? So we're going to get into these full-size ladies right now. Okay, people, let's jump into the basic specs on these two to start off, and we'll start here with the CZ P10F. The only aftermarket thing I have here is the trigger, so don't pay attention to that, but everything in there operates the same way. So to start off, we've got an MSRP on the P10F at $524. So that's where that is, although you can find them on the internet for more or less. It is a 19+1 magazine in there. It is a metal magazine with a polymer base, and you can get various different extensions for that. Polymer frame, stainless steel, nitrided barrel, striker fired system. Striker fire systems are relatively similar, but let's get into the rest of it. 9mm, obviously. We have the fixed 3-dot sights in there. The specific one came with the high def orange front night sight. The weight on this is 28.2 ounces, a little bit portly. Overall length here, guys, is going to be 8 inches, a little bit longer than some. Barrel length is 4.5, which is fairly typical for guns in this size rating here. And then we have right here an overall width of 1.26 inches wide here, which is fairly standard, but it is a little bit bigger overall. So when it comes down to some of the differences here, stippling work on the P10F, I find it a little bit nicer. I find it a little bit more aggressive, a little bit easier to control. We do have interchangeable back straps, less of an aggressive angle, reversible magazine release button there, which is fairly typical, same as the Glock Gen 5, its counterpart. A little bit more of a generous trigger guard here. Front serrations, it's a little bit narrowed down with these chamfer cuts on the slide. So go ahead and just kind of, that's the basic overall. We've got the index marks here. We have a truly ambidextrous slide stop, slide release, and you have your takedown levers right there. So we'll go ahead and just get into the basic specs of the Gen 5 Glock 17 here, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into both of these and compare them back and forth. So Gen 5 Glock 17, obviously we know this is a 9mm is as well in here. We do have a reversible magazine release here. We have a 17+1 capacity. Both of these have those kind of high definition followers in them. Safe action striker fired 4.49 inch barrel here on this one. This is the Glock marksman barrel, so a little bit better than the previous generations according to Glock. 24.97 ounces, so it is a little bit lighter. It is a little bit smaller overall. The dimensions we have here, 7.95, so not huge, but a little bit smaller. We have a slide length here of 7.32, overall width of 1.34, so it is a little bit fatter on there, so a little bit of something to deal with. And then the overall slide width itself is 1 inch, so 1.34 in total, 1 inch on that slide directly. So not bad. This one has the AmeriGlow sights that did come on this as they were purchased this way. Same polymer frame, stainless steel slide, that diamond light coating on the slide here. Standard stippling, no finger grooves as with the P10. Gen 5 Glock went away with those. Still that aggressive angle, Glock hump. We do have a ambidextrous slide stop slide release and the reversible magazine button, as I said. Overall, fairly Glock-ish. Glock did not change a ton. No index marks here, no accelerator cuts, nothing like that on here. Smooth slide, although it is narrowed down and nosed off pretty nicely in here, not bad at all. So let's go ahead and talk about the barrels. So the barrel in the Glock is the Enhanced Marksman barrel. As you can see, it's got a nice little target crown right there. The CZ is a traditionally rifled barrel. It does not have a target crown, although I have not had any issues with accuracy in either of these guns. I can't say there's a big difference in barrel quality or barrel accuracy between the two. We'll break these down and show you some of the main differences between the two platforms here. And like I said, as these are right now, they are fairly comparably equipped with the lights and everything. Just have a little bit of a different trigger in the CZ right now. So we look at the slides here. We can see obviously the P10F has a much kind of more robust area right there towards the front of that guide rod and spring. CZ has really thickened these up. You can see the depth in there, how thick that front portion is, not just that the spring is kind of depressed in there, but just how thick it is in depth there when you see how far back that guide rod spring assembly fits in there. Glock Gen 5 did beef that up a little bit because they were having the nose end here come back bent, either from misuse or dropping it while servicing the pistols. You can see very similar looking slides in here, which is going to be fairly common with a lot of striker fired stuff. You're going to see very similar looking things. You can see that length difference right there in the slides. Let me try and get these as close that I can as possible. The CZ is a little bit of an angular design, as you can see right there with that slide. So if we just go, let's go barrel tip to barrel tip right there. You can see decent amount of length difference on the CZ setup here. You can also see the barrel lugs right there on the CZ on the right and the Glock on the left. Barrel lugs in the CZs are absolutely massive. Do have a different style of striker safety in the Glock down here on the bottom. Typical plunger design. In the CZ here, it's actually a little spring activated kind of arm that catches the striker and doesn't allow it to go forward until it is deactivated. So a little bit different. Obviously the strikers are very, very similar. Not much you can do about the striker. They kind of are what they are. Back plates, pretty similar. They come off and on pretty much the same way. You got to pull forward on the striker sleeve and then you can pull that cap off. So similar, but there are some differences. You have a little bit longer of an extractor right here on the CZ. A little bit of a different angle. You definitely have a little bit more of a chamfered down slide there. You've got the front serrations, unlike the Gen 5 Glock, although they do have front serration models and the MOS models that do have those, but this is a standard Glock 17 as it sits. Now the DLC coating, it's kind of tough to tell maybe right there, but the DLC on the Glock does look like a kind of a deeper, richer black. I'm trying to get you the best lighting here I can on it, which is kind of different from previous generation Glocks as well. It just looks really dark, really deep. So when we talk about the frames, there are quite a bit of difference here. Go ahead and move these out of the way. So we can see the CZ over here on the right. We have a much larger set of rails right there. We have a much kind of a deeper area. It's a little bit deeper, but a little bit more narrow as it comes into the valley right here, where the Glock is a little bit more up to the top of the slide area. It's real tough for you guys to see that And then we can see in the back, have a lot of different look going on here in the CZ, which is on top. So the Glock, obviously, we'll take a look at this real quick. We know trigger bar, all one piece, comes back. We have that cruciform right here. We have our drop safe ledges, which are there and there, right there on the side. And the safeties built into this are the drop safe ledge does not allow that to go down. Trigger safety is what keeps the trigger from going back. And then once you depress that and you pull the trigger back, it's activated right here. The back of that trigger bar, get you a good look at this, is activated right there by the connector. As it goes back, drops down, comes off the drop safe ledge, and the striker, which is captured right here by the cruciform on the sear edge of it right there. Once it drops off that edge like that, allows the striker to go forward. Very simplistic design, very easy to work on, very easy to work with. The CZ is quite a bit different. We have, the trigger bar has more pieces in it. So this whole portion right down in here, get you the best light I can on this. This whole section is the trigger bar all the way around in there. Still do have the safety right there on the frame. So once that's depressed, the trigger's allowed to go back, but it operates quite a bit differently. So I'll just give you guys kind of a look at what's going on. You can see the part moving right there is kind of in relation to what the cruciform is on a Glock. So this triangular edge right there is what connects with that striker safety right there, just so you guys are aware. And as you pull back on the trigger shoe, you will see that portion come back, disconnects the striker safety with that triangular edge. And then this part back here, right there, which is actually the sear, drops down, allows that striker lug to come off and go forward. These springs are located back in here rather than in the Glock being a singular spring in the block. There are two springs in here, and the actual trigger bar itself goes all the way around in there and then is connected by the pin up here, where the cruciform is this whole trigger bar, all connected in one piece. There are more moving pieces in the P10F for sure. Talk quickly about the magazine, guys. We have a 19+1, 17+1. We have a metal magazine with a polymer base plate, and then a full polymer with metal internal on the Glock side. We can see there is quite a size difference. Both have high-res or high-vis followers in them. For the most part, the simple battlefield breakdown, strip and clean is the same. Once you get a little deeper into the CZ, it does have more moving parts. So we'll go ahead and talk about trigger pulls right here and show you guys what we have. So on the Glock, we have a standard trigger in here, so very forward set trigger shoe safety that does not depress all the way, which just bugs a lot of people. Pretty good amount of take up on it, and then let's see our creep, and then it lets off. Gen 5 triggers are a little bit better than previous generations. There's your reset, a little bit of creep, and then the let off. So let's go ahead and check out the CZ. Now this does have the HPI trigger, so it's not a true comparison. Actually, you know what? I'll grab my P10C, which has a factory trigger. Okay, got my P10C here, which has all factory internals and everything. So we'll go ahead and do the trigger test on this one because it's the same as the F. So we can see take up is relatively the same on stock. The shoe does feel a little bit better because the safety is allowed to come far further in than on the Glock trigger shoe. Still doesn't go completely flush, but it does feel better. So we have a nice defined hard wall, check for creep, and then we'll see our break. So pretty much no creep. Tiniest bit of creep, reset, and there we go again. Do one more look at that. There's a reset. And like I said, not nearly as much creep in this trigger on the stock P10s than the Glock. So in all, pretty good stuff, guys. They are fairly compatible. So the CZ, like I said, is definitely bigger. Let's go ahead and take some side-to-side looks here for you guys. Do a size comparison even with the lights on there. We can see the CZ over here on the right is a little bit more narrow, but it is quite a bit longer. And if we get the slide to slide here, do this the other way so you can actually see it. We'll get top to top. You can see just how much longer, even with the magwell on the Glock, that the CZ is. So definitely a longer grip profile. But if we put the Glock down here, you can see the difference in the profile of the actual Glock grip. You can see the Glock back there. You can see the big hump sticking out in the kind of more harsh angle in there. And you can actually see how much deeper you can get on the CZ because you can see the Glock back there. So if you have a really close look, kind of how those set next to each other and behind each other. And you can see the difference in the trigger guard up in there. Far more generous on the CZ than on the Glock. You can see the Glock trigger guard through there. So quite some differences that do, to me, make it feel a little bit better over here on the CZ, because just ergonomically, this just works better with my hands, and you can do whatever you want with the grip. The palm swells down here, they do have changeable ones for you. So that's the basics of it. The only other thing I could say in here to show you guys is, instead of the Glock's single rail, although it did go to the Picatinny ties insert, the CZ P10F does give you 2 notches to work with, where the Glock only gives you 1. So I hope that helped you guys out. We'll go ahead and get back up into the chair and we will finish this up. So the CZ P10F is definitely a little bit more of a bigger girl out there on the market, but I can tell you the more and more I shoot this and work with it, doing drills with it, the more and more I actually like it, just the way it feels in the hand, the way I go over it. Now the similarities and the differences, we are both black striker fired guns operating under the same sort of fashion, just a little bit differently, because everybody has to differentiate themselves when it comes to trigger mechanisms and all that. Now, the differences, the major ones for me, are the angle of the grip, being able to get higher up here, a little bit of a better slide profile, I feel. It's definitely heavier and it's longer. So us bigger handed guys here may have an easier time with something like the CZ P10F. I found that little bit of additional weight helps control that recoil impulse a little bit better, along with that extra grip for me. And it also doesn't interfere with me doing magazine exchanges. I probably don't even need a magwell on here, just because I find this gun very ergonomic for my hands, how it works, and just ease of getting things in and out and operating this gun in general. So the major differences on that 17, like I showed up close, are gonna be that grip angle, some of the size, it's a little bit lighter. Obviously that slide profile is completely different. Trigger guard is a lot different, which I have the biggest issue with. Even being a full-size gun, I find myself really having to get my finger way on the outside to get into the trigger guard right there, and sometimes I actually just drag across it as I'm repositioning my finger from across the frame into that trigger well. And I find that I have less of an issue with that when it comes to the CZ P10F, because it's a little bit more generous for somebody with a big old hot dog sized fingers like mine. Now when it comes down to me having a little bit bigger hands and sometimes liking a little bit more of a gun in my hand, to me the CZ feels better hands down. And that's not only in the full size, but also in the compact for me as well. It just has a little bit more weight to it. I find the angle and the ergonomics of it, especially with that grip profile, just fits my hand quite a bit better. The stippling to me feels a little bit better, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more to hold on to. I do have those front serrations in case I need to do a press check or something, I can. The Picatinny rail, having more slots allows me to position a light, if it's a smaller light, a bigger light, a little bit more to what would be suitable for me. That more generous trigger guard definitely helps out with me bringing my finger over and not dragging across that trigger guard as I'm repositioning my finger when I go and I've made that decision to fire, if I'm not already prepping that trigger. So the CZ is definitely something that I enjoy when it comes to that, but it does have some shortfalls. Some of the shortfalls for that CZ are going to be parts, whether it's aftermarket or stock. I have found it somewhat of a pain in the butt to get factory parts for the CZ P10C and the P10F, especially when it came down to those optics plates. Now that is not a problem when you get into the Glock world. Both factory and aftermarket, they're readily available from dang near anyway. And you can just order parts on top of parts, and they're very budget friendly, and you generally don't have to wait too long, especially if you're ordering from a major company online, Brownells Optics or something like that, or Optics Planet, something like that. You're generally going to get those very quickly, and they almost always have that stuff in stock. Now when it comes to the aftermarket parts world, guys, CZ stuff is growing, but I don't think much compares pistol-wise to what is available for the Glock platform at this point. Seems to be that everybody is making just about everything for these, or doing slide work or trigger work or pretty much anything for them out there to make them a little bit better of a shooter than they are, especially a lot of grip stippling companies, just because we're not working with the best stuff here from the factory. Now, we talk about something outside of parts when it comes to industry support. And what I mean by that is something outside like the manufacturer, the outside industry, whether it be aftermarket parts or specifically holsters. Glock is definitely the winner there, guys, because there is just not the outer or industry support outside of the manufacturers and a couple of companies that are making parts for the CZs, the P10C or the P10F. Now, it's up and coming, but you can pretty much get anybody to make you a Glock holster with just about any light combination as long as it's a major brand, especially when it comes to duty gear. Now, I have found some holsters fit the CZ stuff for the same or equivalent size Glock, but I have found that most of mine do not. The tighter formed they are, especially vacuum formed or ALS Safariland duty holsters for the 17 or the 19, I have found that my CZs just did not fit in a way that let me feel comfortable with that. So generally when I'm using my CZs, or I'm practicing when I'm training with them, having fun with them out there, I'm generally running a Blackhawk Omnivore holster, which I would not recommend for duty. Definitely good for competition and range use. And a lot of what we do out there, guys, comes down to what we like shooting war, whether it's rifles, long range pistols, 22s, trick shooting, anything out there. A lot of it is what's comfortable, what you like more, what feels better. And for me, it's an easy choice. The CZ, the P10F, not only ergonomically feels better in my hand, fits my hand, it just shoots far better than the Glock 17 in my opinion. Little bit to do with how you can control that recoil because of how high you can get up on the grip. Little bit to do with some of that added weight, and then a little bit to do with that better profile ergonomically, you know, of the grip here. Glock has that harsher grip angle, which CD does not, and CZ just feels better for me. Now, if you're a Glock shooter and you've been a Glock shooter your entire life, that may not be the case for you. You may find yourself shooting at a little bit of a different angle or presenting at a different angle. For me, I'm used to guns that have a more flatter profile. So when I grab a Glock, especially after I've been training with my 1911s a lot, I tend to shoot high. Now, when it comes to the quality of the two, I think the quality is definitely there. I think the parts in there are good. I haven't had any issues with the CZ or the Glock for that matter that I didn't cause myself by trying aftermarket parts with it. When it comes to reliability, guys, I don't think anybody can honestly say the Glock 17 is matched by the CZ P10F in reliability. And that is just because it has not stood the test of time like the Glock has at this point. Do I think it'll get there? Probably, maybe, you know, I don't know. But the CZ P10F just has not had as many rounds by as many people fired through it for as long a period of time. So that's definitely a +1 for the Glock platform. Now, when it comes to accuracy, for me, I am dead nuts more accurate and a little bit faster with the CZ P10F. It's just a more natural profile for me. And I find since I have a little bit more weight, a little bit more of a natural profile, I can get shots off a little bit faster and a little bit more accurate as compared to the Glock 17, where I consistently find myself having to readjust my sight picture just a tiny bit because of the angle of that grip. So what it really comes down to when it comes to me and choosing one of these, if I could only have one, I'm going to give you kind of a two-part answer because it really depends on what you plan to use it for. If you were going to use this for duty use or security use or something like that, or private security, I'm going to have to say the Glock 17 because its reliability is unmatched at this point, in my opinion, when it comes to striker-fired pistol systems. The support for it, the ability to replacement parts for it, pretty much off the charts. Its quality, we know it works, may not have the best ergonomics, but it is something that is going to consistently go bang and consistently put rounds on target as accurately as you can. And some of that's going to be up to the shooter's skill level, but it's really tough to deny the accuracy, reliability, and the durability of the Glock platform. It also just has that support from outside, like the parts area where it comes to holsters, specifically retention holsters, you know, in the waistband holsters, outside the waistband holsters, appendix rigs. You can pretty much get any type of holster to fit most major light brands when it comes to the Glock platform. That is not the case with the CZ. However, if you are looking for a gun to have fun with, competition shooting, anything like that, and you're not in need for, say, that maximum proven reliability or aftermarket support, or when it comes to outer company support like holsters and all that, I just flat out really dig the CZ P10F specifically. And I know that's kind of hard to give, a two-part answer like that, guys. But it's just how I feel. Duty use, I would go with the Glock 17. Competition, range fun, my own personal carry piece, that P10F. And I couldn't narrow it down to one because I like the P10F so much, but it just doesn't have the support for holsters, specifically retention holsters, that I would need to feel comfortable telling people to carry it on duty. And I know there are some people that can jam this in all their holsters and stuff like that, but in my testing, I just found out that it didn't work with most of not only my concealed carry holsters, but my Safariland holsters specifically, just because of how the slide was machined and the serrations on the front part of it. And maybe that was just me, but that was my result. So I did not feel comfortable saying that this was a good to go duty setup, because you just don't have the opportunity to have a really good retention holster at this time. Now I know Safariland does make some retention holsters for the CZs, but my understanding is they're not making the light bearing ones right now specifically for the CZ, and I just didn't find the fit of the Glock full-size holsters to be good enough to make me feel secure in it. Hopefully they will do that in the future, but that's what I have for you right now. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you see anything you guys are interested in here, I will put links down below for you. You can check out the webpage, tacticalconsiderations.com, to see all the 2A stuff, or one of the other places this video is. If you want any of the 2A items that you saw here today, if you want to support the channel, you can use any of those affiliate links, or you can go to the SubscribeStar, which is linked down below as well. Hope you got some information out of there. Hope it helps you guys out and make a decision if you're on the fence between the P10F and the Glock 17. I will see you guys on the next one.